So you need to explain about lattice of cuboids and how the rules are projected on the lattice of cuboids, like this. And coming to the dynamic discretization, you need to write about the concepts of wings. And here it follows the arc system, so you need to write about the arc. It only takes uh, this rule template, the rules of the form like this. That means it includes two predicates in the left hand side of the rule and one predicate in the right hand side of the rule, like that. So everything you get from the PPT only. No need to go for the material. Okay, and you need to write about the steps involved in the process of what dynamic discretization. You need to explain each and every step, possibly with an example. Okay, like this. So here, coming to the correlation rules, you need to first you need to mention why should we moving to the correlation rules? Why? Because even rules are strong, some rules are not interesting. So to add the interestingness to strong association rules, we need to go for the correlation rules. Correlation rules. For this, we need to have a correlation measure along with the supported confidence. That thing you need to mention here. So after that, you need to mention about what are the correlation measures. We are having 4 correlation measures, right? You need to mention that, you need to explain each and every method, and you need to explain the values. What if the value is 1, which indicates that, which indicates what? If the value is less than 1, which indicates what? Like that. If the value is greater than 1, it is a positive correlation. Like that, you need to write the effect of the resulted value with a particular correlation measure, and you need to write it with a formula. Okay. After that, you need to similarly, you need to, if at all possible, you can explain each and every one with an example. Otherwise, the latter slides, you have a single example for all other, like this. You can also write. This is a single example which shows all the measures, which also explains the concepts of null invariant. So no need to go for the individual examples. If possible, you can go if at all the time supports and if at all the weightage of the question supports, like this. Similarly, if they are asked for null transaction or null invariant transactions, you can take this example and you can explain that with an example. Before that, you need to write what is the null transaction, what is the null invariant measure, and what are the null transactions, like that. Is my voice is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
And coming to this constraint-based association mining, you need to write about. Yes. Anyone want to say something? Okay, coming to constraint-based association mining, here you have to write about what are the constraints and why we need to impose the constraints on the mining process. What is the purpose actually? To confine the search space. To simplify the search process, we need to oppose some constraints on the mining process. So similarly, you need to explain about different constraints. And here are the list of all constraints. You need to explain what is the individual constraint, and we are having a beautiful example also there here. So here, before that, you need to about the meta rule and its format with an example. So to explain the constraints, to explain different constraints more deeply, you can take an example, and you can take an example of DMQL, and you can explain each line of the DMQL, which line belongs to the which constraint and why. You can explain that, not instead of not simply mentioning like this. This is simplification. In PPT, you are always getting a simplified answer for your question. But in your exam, you need to elaborate it, you need to explain it in your own words. Like if at all you need to answer this, you can write that. You can write like this actually first, and later you need to explain. If you consider this knowledge type constraint, this line 1 belongs to the knowledge type constraint. Why? Because in line 1 we are having mine association as well. That means here it mentions the word association. That means which indicates that here we are going to mine the association rule, not the correlation rule. So here it indicates that, indirectly it indicates that what kind of knowledge we are going to mine. That's why it belongs to the knowledge type constraint. Like this, in one word as much as you can explain each and everything, whatever you got from the PPT, while answering the question in your exam or in your assignment also, you can elaborate by in your own words How to elaborate? Actually, if you go for a movie or if you uh, seen a scene or an accident or an incident, you want to share with your friend or with your mother, how can you express that? First, you imagine that situation and you can explain with your own words, right? Similarly, here also, just you know the content first and then express that with your own words. This is not the English subject, so there is no need for checking grammatical mistakes, etc., etc. Just go directly and attempt what you know, what you learn from this class, or what you practice from the PPT like this. So here, if suppose the question is like write about rule constraint, so you can start from here. If the question is like write about rule constraint, you can start here, but you need to write this example first. You need to write this example first, and here first you no need to go for this slide. You can directly go to this slide. In that example, we have identified the following rule constraints. Those are these are the list of rule constraints we have identified. And again, we are having some types of rule constraints. And each type you need to write about what is it and what are the rules, what are the rules under this particular constraint, and you need to explain that with an example. In the last class, I have explained with an example, right, each and everything. So like this, you need to write it. And this is the end of the third unit, and these are the topics we have covered from this third unit. Mining sequence patterns, association rules, performance measures, market basket analysis, different association rules. We have learned closed and maximal frequent item set, efficient frequent item set mining methods. Under this, we are having a priori and FP growth and mining multidimensional association, multi-level association. And from association mining to, we are moving to the correlation analysis. And finally, we are having constraint-based association mining. So this is your third unit, and I'm going to share this in Edmodo mostly. So, anybody have any doubts in this? Anybody have any doubts from the third unit? Or can I jump to the fourth unit? What I suggest is mostly, yeah, tell me. Anybody have any doubts from this?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So what I suggest is, I so mostly I share this PPT today or tomorrow in Edmodo. After that, what my suggestion is, download that PPT and go to the slide one. Even though you're not having the mid exam at this moment, even though what I can suggest is go to the slide one, because in the recent classes, in the last 2 3 classes, I am going to revise this unit 3. Right, you are very familiar with this, but this familiarity you may not hold for a long period. So what my suggestion is, go to the slide one and just scroll down and note down the points what you get from the PPT. Prepare your own words, own notes from the PPT. So since the note is prepared by you only, so that will be definitely helpful for your internals as well as for your final exam. So that is the thing you can do for making your exams to attend better. ఎందుకంటే మీరు ఇప్పుడు మర్చిపోతే మళ్ళీ ఇప్పుడు దీన్ని వదిలేస్తారంటే కొన్ని రోజుల తర్వాత మళ్ళీ మర్చిపోతారు మొత్తం. సో దట్ ఈస్ దట్ మే బి హ్యాపెన్ ఫర్ ఎవ్రీ వన్. సో వాట్ మై సజెషన్ ఈస్ just to go download the PPT whenever I have uploaded that. You just download the PPT and you just maintain a notes. You just write practicing a notes start from the first slide of the PPT. So go to the first slide, and from that first slide, what you get from that. So here this is your chapter 3. This is your unit 3, and here what is the pattern? By going through the entire slide, what is the pattern you get? So you think you need to write with your own words. Similarly, here is the frequent pattern. Read the entire slide and especially read the highlighted. With this color, I have highlighted something, right? Especially go through that, and after that, you need to write what you get from this slide. Like this, slide by slide, topic by topic, you need to maintain. You need to write your own notes. So it cost I think 1 or 2 days. So if you spend 1 or 2 days for writing the notes for the unit 3, you can go through your exams easily without getting any strain, any effort, so that you can put your effort on the remaining subjects or remaining chapters of the subject. You can save your time and effort. So that is my only suggestion. So I'm now moving to the fourth unit, which is very interesting and very important also. And one more thing, I don't know whether you know or not. Whenever I have downloaded the video, recorded video, chart information also I have downloaded. That is done by default. But I don't get uh, the persons who post the chart. So if you want to give any suggestions to me, you can directly type in the chart. No problem. So whenever I have downloaded, I get the text what you have put in the chart. I don't know the person who post that feedback. సో మీ ఎవరు ఫీడ్బ్యాక్ పోస్ట్ చేశారో నాకు తెలియదు కాబట్టి మీరు అలా భయపడాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. ఇఫ్ ఎట్ ఆల్ యూ వాంట్ ఎనీథింగ్ స్పెషల్లీ ఫ్రమ్ దిస్ క్లాస్ ఆర్ ఎనీ trouble you are facing regarding the net connectivity or regarding the way of expression, regarding the content delivery, whatever, so you can just simply type on the chart. So if at all you type your problem or you type your feedback, whether you like the class or you dislike the class, if at all you dislike the class, please mention the reason also, so that I can rectify when I for the next class. I can be able to rectify for the next class. So this is only for improving the class quality, not for any other thing. So whenever I have downloaded the video, the all chart information also I have downloaded automatically. It is done, so that I can able to get what's the actual feedback and at what point I need to improve myself like this. So if at all anybody want to give suggestion, they can mention in the chat box. Okay, no worries. So I'm going to start the fourth unit, which is nothing but classification and prediction. My voice is okay for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So classification and prediction, just observe the words. If you want to know, if you want to learn about anything, just read out the names and memorize. That means just memorize it. What is it? Or just on reading the word, what you get inside your mind. So what is the classification in general sense? Classification. If suppose I gave some bucket of feather and I asked you to classify that, what it mean actually? If some bucket of flowers I gave to you and I asked you to classify that in the sense what? Just a basic idea, not talking about the subject.
Separating different items from the given set.
Yeah. That means here the content is a bucket of flowers. So classification in the sense flower wise, category wise. Suppose if the rose flower is there, jasmine is there, some other flower is there. So classification in the sense category of flower wise category, you need to separate it by category wise. That means depends upon the flower type, you need to separate it. That is only the classification. Next, prediction. What is meant by prediction? Predicting. What is the general meaning reflects from that word? What is the general word reflects from that?
Giving some information, madam, before anything happens.
Oh, 1 second. Wait for 1 second. Okay. What is meant by prediction? Predicting something. Somebody said something. Can I get that? What is meant by prediction?
Getting some information before something, ma'am.
That means getting some unknown thing. Predicting something. in the sense generally in case of shares, we can frequently heard the word future predictions, Sensex predictions about the Sensex, like that. Predicting something in the sense getting to know about the unknown thing, like that. So this is the general meaning reflects from the words classification and prediction. And let us see what is meant by classification and what is meant by prediction in the sense of data warehousing and data business intelligence. And here is the topics to be covered. What is meant by classification and prediction, and issues regarding classification and prediction. And we are having different classification methods. Particularly in this unit, you are going to cover decision trees, Bayesian classification, rule based, and prediction methods. We are having two prediction methods: linear regression and non-linear regression, and accuracy and error measure. And finally, evaluating the accuracy of a classifier or predictor. These are the topics to be covered. And first of all, coming to the classification and prediction. Classification and prediction are the two types of data analysis used to predict future data trends. So this is somewhat similar to what we have discussed earlier, what we have guessed earlier. Classification predicts categorical label, whereas prediction is for predicting numerical values. Prediction is for predicting numerical values. So let us go in detail into this. Just read out the lines. I will come back to this slide again if you want. Here, before going for the classification, first you need to know about the data set. I will surely come back to this slide. Whenever you get the basic idea regarding classification and prediction with some example, I will get back to this slide, okay? Then you can get in-depth meaning, you can get that. Coming to the data set, first you need to know about the data set before going for the actual topics, classification and prediction. First you need to know about the data set. Data set is a collection of data usually presented in tabular form. This already we know that data set, data in the sense collection of data that is presented in tabular form. So consider this is an example. This is the data set, and here each column of the table is represented as a attribute, is called as a attribute, and each row is referred as a data point or example or observation. Data point or example or observation. And this one we already know that if the value is continuous, you can treat that value as a numerical value. If it is a discrete value, we treat that value as a categorical value. Similarly, if an attribute consisting of the numerical value, those attributes are called as discrete valued attributes. Continuous valued attributes. Whereas if an attribute, so what are the continuous valued attributes? These four are the continuous valued attributes. And if an attribute having some categorical value or discrete value, then it is called as discrete valued attribute. These are the basic information, basic terminologies of a data set. So where attribute, each column represents an attribute, each row represents a data point or example or observation. Why? Because for the next time, I'm not going to use the word column, row. That is not a proper terminology. Because this is not a table. This is a data set represented in a tabular form. So we don't, it's not good to use the words columns, rows like that. So we need to use the terminology attribute to represent a column, and observation or data point or example to represent a row. So this is a numerical value and this is the categorical value. We already know that. And particularly this data set is an example of the multi-class iris data set. Iris is a flavor, and this data set explains the characteristics of the flavor. Iris, that flavor group is iris. That means if suppose consider rose, the flavor group is rose. In that particularly you have different characteristics, that is hybrid, that may be the hybrid rose, that may be some other rose like this. So what is this multi-class? This is the iris data set. Then what is this multi-class? Multi-class in the sense Here, if you observe, this is the class label. This represents the class label. That means it categorizes each observation. In the sense, if at all the sepal length is 5, the sepal length of the flower is 5. If the sepal width of the flower is 2, if the petal length of the flower is 3.5, if the petal width of the flower is 1, then that flower belongs to versicolor category. Versicolor is a type of iris flower. Similarly, we are having this is one category, and similarly here we are having some other category, Setosa, and here Virginica, some other category we have. So if you observe here, if the sepal length is 4.9, sepal width is 2.5, and petal length is 4.5, and petal width is 1.7. If at all this is the case, then that flower should be Virginica. So this is the this is the multi-class iris data set. Why? Because from the data set there are more than 2 classes. The number of classes are more than 2. If at all the number of classes are more than 2, then it is called as a multi-class data set. Then it is called as a multi-class. Remember the word is multi-class. Multi-class, having multiple classes. Multiple in the sense more than 2. So these terminologies you need to remember. Why? Because those are repeatedly used in the later parts of the topic. And here is another example of the data set. Similarly, similar to the previous one, what are these columns are referred as? These columns are referred with what?
Attributes.
Attributes. Yes. The rows are referred as what?
Data point.
Data points, yes, or observations or examples. So, and one more thing is, here is the class attribute actually. This is the class attribute, and this is also called as a target, whereas all the remaining attributes are called predictor. So this is not a reputed terminology. Just remember and just go through that. That's it. No need to remember these terminologies. Generally, usually the class attribute is called as a target, and remaining all attributes are called as a predictor. And here, this is a weather data set. So what is the temperature of the weather? What is the humidity of the weather, like this? And especially, this is a binary class weather data set. Why it is called binary class? I think you can guess. Why it is called binary class? Previously, I said that this particular data set is multi-class, belonging to the multi-class category. But this is belong to the binary class. Why so? Any guess? Only guessing. Why it is called binary class? Binary in the sense it indicates the number what? Binary indicates which number? This is not at all relevant to the subject. I am asking generally. Binary indicates which number? To binary class in the sense? Binary class in the sense?
2 classes.
Two classes. So why I am mentioning that this is a binary class data set.
Class attribute contains only 2 values.
Two values. Yes is one value and no is one value. So the entire class attribute, play golf is the class attribute. It only consisting of 2 values. So if at all the class attribute consisting of 2 values, then it is a binary class. If at all the attributes are, the values are more than 2, then it is a multi-class. Just it is a category. That data set belongs to the multi-class category. That data set belongs to the binary class category, like that. So these are the just brief introduction about the terminologies of the data set. Coming to the actual concept, classification. So here it is the process of identifying the category or class label of the new observation to which it belongs to, where a classifier or a model is constructed to predict categorical label. Something I said, just leave all the things, just read it and leave it. And I will again come back to the slides whenever I have explained it with an example in the next slide. So observe this log diagram of a classification, a typical classification process. Initially, the data set is divided into train and test set. Actually, here, the original data set. You already know about what is the data set, right? So here, initially, the data set is divided into training and testing set, where train set includes the data with the label, with the class label. So the data set initially is divided into two parts. In general, some 70% of the data set is divided into training. 30% of the data set is divided in general. There is no rule that we need to divide like this only. Like so, in general, 70% of the data is divided into training, and 30% of the data is divided for testing. In training, we should include class label, whereas in testing, we should exclude the class label. So what are the labels? This is the labeling part. These are the class labels. These are the class labels. So whenever the data set is divided into training and testing parts, for training set, the data set should include the class labels. For example, I have divided the data into two halves. This is the first half and this is the second half. And this I have divided it for training purpose. And this is for testing purpose. What I am telling, the training data includes the class label. So there is no change in the data. This all belongs to the training set. This all belongs to the training data. Whereas the testing data should not include any label. So we need to remove it. We need to remove the last column, and this is the data set for allocated for testing purpose. Why we need to remove this? All the things you will getting clear with the next slide. There is an example for you. So this is the way. The initial data set is divided into two parts: training purpose, training data and testing data. Training data should include the labels, whereas testing data should not include the labels. And here, for the classification algorithm, it initially trained by taking the training data. Initially, the classification classifier is trained on the training data. So after using the training data, and as a result of it, a model is constructed. Actually, after training, a model is constructed. Once the model is constructed, the test set is submitted to the model. So the test set is submitted to the model. Then each observation of the test set is classified and labeled with appropriate classes. And after that, we are having several methods like accuracy and FPR to check the efficiency of the classifier. So based on the results, we can decide whether to consider this classifier or not. What is this training? What is the model? What are these terminologies? You may get confused. Let me explain this with a beautiful example. Here, for example, if you observe the children in the play school, they are able, they use it to learn about some small things from their books or from TVs like that. For example, the child is about to learn about going to learn about animals. So what actually the learning process? We use it to show him the books, or we use it to show him the images in phone or in TV, right? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So initially in the learning phase, how he used to learn all the things like this is the elephant, this is the tiger, this is the monkey, based on some basic diagrams, or by watching some TV, or by watching to some phone videos, etc., etc. So this can be considered as a learning phase, which is also called as training phase of a children. This is the training phase of a children.
Madam,
And
voice
here,
cut out, ma'am.
one second. Is it okay now? Shall I continue? Are you able to listen me? Hello. Are you able to listen me?
Yes, ma'am.
కట్ అవుతుందా ఇంకా?
లేదు మ్యామ్ బాగా.
ఓకే, నేను మాక్సిమం నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్ కి రెక్టిఫై చేసుకుంటాను నెట్ ఇష్యూని. సో ఈ క్లాస్ కి చూడండి కొంచెం. సో కన్సిడర్ దిస్ యాజ్ ఎ ట్రైనింగ్ ఫేజ్ ఆఫ్ ద చిల్డ్రన్. సో హౌ ద చైల్డ్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు ట్రైన్ to learn about, suppose the task is to learn about the animal. So how the training phase is done actually? So by showing some examples, how training phase is done? By showing some examples, some images, by practicing with some drawing books like that, right? So this is also as here we are providing data with labels. We are providing this is the data and this is the label. Do you understand what is the label here? Is my voice is clear or not?
మ్యామ్ మళ్ళీ మీది వాయిస్ కట్.
ఇది కూడా కట్ అవుతుందా? ఇది కూడా కట్ అవుతుందా?
Ma, are you getting my voice?
ఎస్ మ్యామ్.
Shall I proceed?
ఎస్ మ్యామ్.
Yes,
Shall I proceed or not?
ఎస్ మ్యామ్.
yes, ma'am.
Are you getting my voice?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So here, this is considered as a training phase. So in this training phase, you can get the data with the label. So here, what is the data and what is the label? Here, what is the data and what is the label? Anybody? What is the data and what is the label here?
Label means name, madam.
Give me voice.
Label is.
So here, this is the data.
Name.
Here, this is the. So here, this is the data and this is the corresponding label. So whenever we provide some. Okay, I'm not getting your voices actually. I can't able to get your responses. Now the time is 2:45. Let's stop this class today. I will rectify this net connectivity problem for the next class. Okay, I'm going to stop this class today.